Welcome to Prompt India podcast. I am Saran.
And I am Karthik. Join us in decoding how AI is reshaping India.
Welcome to yet another episode of Prompt India. In the last episode with Gauri Kishore, we discussed how AI is changing and revolutionizing content and marketing. But a massive shift is happening elsewhere, beyond the marketing boardrooms and coding hubs, somewhere much closer to our homes. And to cover the breadth and depth of this change, we are kicking off a mini series on the impact of AI on education.
Education is one of the primary places where AI seems to have huge potential of positive impact, but is also a big source of anxiety in the minds of the people. We'll try to look at it from different lenses teachers, parents, children, and also look at it from the angle of curriculums, processes, education in private schools, as well as at the grassroots.
And to kick off the series, we have our first guest, Tulika Anand Charan. Tulika is an education veteran with over 20 years of experience and is currently DGM for Jaipuria group of schools, where she handles training and recruitment for the large network of schools. She is at the forefront of this massive shift, training teachers, counseling students and parents, and listening to their concerns. Tulika, welcome to Prompt India.
Thank you so much. I'm glad I'm here.
So, Tulika, let's start with the big picture. We keep hearing AI is going to revolutionize schools, but you are actually on the ground. What are you seeing in the classrooms and campuses every day? Are we actually using AI or are we just talking about it and there's no real action happening on the ground?
So, Sarun, let's take a step back here,
Mhm.
right? When we talk about AI, we must understand what the landscape of education actually looks like. Right? We are talking about schools, we are talking about private run schools, we are talking about schools which are primarily not just in Tier 1 city, but also Tier 2, Tier 3 cities. Right? Yes, it has brought about a lot more freedom to the teachers, especially when it comes to planning. But when I say we have to take a step back, is the biggest question that we ask ourselves on a everyday basis is that do we have enough workforce or do we have skilled workforce who can take this on? Then my answer is no. We are not prepared. We are jumping where we do not have the workforce who will be able to access it. Now, those are two different game set. Yes, it has changed. The school education has changed dramatically in last 3 years, 4 years, especially post COVID because a lot of it is online intervention. Earlier, what used to happen was everybody would aspire to move to a bigger city for better education. That somewhere has stopped. So it's aspirational. Smaller cities is hugely aspirational. A child who's in a Tier 3 city in UP or Bihar has the same access to education which a child in Delhi has. So that is what has changed. AI to make its impact will still take another 4 to 5 years to actually reach the kind of input we are looking at. So that will take time because A, we don't have the workforce, B, we don't have the accessibility, C, more importantly, we don't have infrastructure to support such a huge gap that needs to be filled up. So that will take time. It has changed. It's work in progress. Another 4 to 5 years is when I see a lot of changes being brought about.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Still very early in the journey, and I think people are still figuring out the use cases and how will it be used. But if I were to, ask you, so how are you embracing or trying to embrace the change as part of the training curriculum that you impart to the teachers?
So, Saran, very interestingly, it is about swimming or sinking. This is where we are. AI is here to say, let's not escape it. That's the most important thing that we answer on an everyday basis. Let's not make it us versus them. That entire mindset that the teachers will go away because AI is coming in. No. In fact, AI brings in so much of freedom to teachers. It brings in so much of personalized learning to the classroom, which is absolutely incredible. So how are we doing it? Doing it with differentiated instructions. What is differentiated instructions is when you design student based learning, student prioritized learning, and try and implement that. For example, if I have to put it in perspective, a teacher comes into the classroom, you have a typical classroom where some children are high achievers, some are low achievers, and that generally about 80% of the class, which is at a some level average. That is where differentiated instructions come into picture. How do you keep that top 5% and bottom 5% together in a classroom. That's what differentiated instructions is all about. Also, very interestingly, it is formative assessments. Formative assessment is moving from learning for any kind of knowledge that we're talking about. We are also talking about how do we increase the skill set of student based on their own knowledge base. So that is what we are training our teachers with. Also, we are trying to implement a lot of what is very popularly and very abusively at times use the term 21st century skills. So what is 21st century skills is how do you make students adaptive to the world outside? How do you make yourself adaptable? How do you adjust to changes? How do you adapt to new technology? How do you adapt to changes in the society within you? So that's what we are doing, and that's what we are preparing us teachers for. We are preparing our teachers for acceptance. We are preparing our teachers to teach children how to fail. For example, project based learning, experiential learning, use real time connect, implement better lesson plans in the classroom. The other thing where AI has helped us in terms of training, also help the teachers in terms of implementation is assessments. Summative assessment, when we talk about year end or PAs or whatever you may call it, when you talk about assessment, when you make graded question papers, that is when it helps you. So, yes, it is making a lot of impact. We are using it, especially in terms of training. Also, we are using AI hugely with recruitments. We have created our own AI agents where we do recruitment. First round of screening is done completely on AI mode, and these are all in house that our own group has created. Also, we are using a lot of individualized teacher development through chatbots. So, what we have done is based on what their professional development needs are, we have created these little agents where they can chat and they can ask for their own professional development. So those are the kind of work that we are doing with AI, which is huge. We are also trying to we grapple through whatever we can, but yes, we are there. We don't have a choice. That's all.
So to follow up, like how are the teachers approaching this? Are they embracing this when you have these trainings, or is there any resistance?
Mixed. So there is the newer lot, the people who are coming in now are very savvy. They're very savvy. They want to learn. They are already there. They know exactly how to use things. I'm talking about purely again age profiling, but yeah, somewhere who's in 20s and 30s will be more. It'll be easier for them to use it than a teacher who's been teaching for like 24, 25, 26 years, and there the ideological difference comes into picture where a lot of them will turn around and say too much of screen time, you can't take away the personal touch and all that happens. So resistance comes, a lot of it. Also, if we get trained with this, will this replace us? That job security is also a very big thing. So, to convince them that this will help you and not take it away from you is also a very, very big challenge for us. So, and for the first time in last 4 5 years, we have started talking about emotional health of teachers as well. We have never spoken about that before. As a country, I think we have never looked at social emotional mental health, social emotional health of teachers ever. This is the first time we are looking at it because. Job security is a problem. Low pays are a problem. So, yes, the resistance is there. A lot of them, especially the teachers who are much older in the system, they don't like the change. They don't even use it. They still want the chalk and board method. They still want the books on. It is a Herculean task on our part. So with the result, what happens is, as an employer, it is easier for me to replace them with younger lot who's ready to embrace change. But that may not be the best solution. So I always say this as part of the learning development team. I always say this: see, we cannot hire better. Let's just train better. That's all that we can do at this stage. So yeah, the resistance is there.
Yeah, I think you make a very interesting point on the teacher's experience and how young they are and how savvy they are versus someone who's done this forever and they have their set ways of doing things and they don't want to change that just because a new tool has just dropped in. Just to follow on to that, so you talked about how you're using this more for teachers at the moment. What about the students? Are they also embracing this? You did mention that we're quite far from the AI based education, but at least are you seeing some change in the way the teaching is done? Because students have this tool in their hand, teachers may like it or not.
So students is it easier not to crack? put it like that. Because for students, like you said, they're very savvy. You would see a fifth or a fourth grader or a sixth grader now, leave aside senior school students, using AI very, very open. AI is something which is available all the time. They ask all their questions there. They're much more aware. The research skills are beautifully enhanced in students because now they also understand plagiarism, which is a very big thing. What is taking away from there is that we are not letting them showcase their prompts. So I think it is important as educators, as teachers, to understand that where is this coming from. So just to ask them a question and make them write an answer, very easy. ChatGPT does it for you in 5 minutes. But to give them the right prompts, to give them how do you do your research, to give them what all to research, how much to use, where to use, that is something that we have to get evolved. The students are there, the teachers are not there, unfortunately. And that is the bridge that we need. That's a gap that we need to bridge because that is a potential time bomb which is ready to explode. And that is something that we need to address. Students have access to AI much more than teachers do. Also, they're more adaptive and they've found a cheat code, right? So now we need to get smart. We need to get probably somewhere ahead of them and tell them, like, we just heard it from IIT Delhi, where they have started, they said they'll admit AI research answers, but you have to provide the prompts, which is the most important thing. What are you giving back? How are you asking questions? What kind of questions are you asking? Because that is what shows your mindset. So I think that is what we need to now work with students. Students are more adaptive at this stage. We need to guide them better. We don't have enough guides.
Yeah.
How does this affect homework as an example, right? Because I've seen cases where people would just, give the homework to ChatGPT and they'll write down the answer and come back with it. So is homework as beneficial as it used to be? Is it leading to a deterioration of cognitive development? Because you're not really applying your mind. You might be asking the right questions, but are you applying your own mind, applying your own creativity? So is this something that you're thinking
A
about?
very unpopular opinion, but why did we ever have homework is something
I would agree with that.
true. Like I always felt it was very oxymoronic, holiday homework or homework. Yeah, holiday ho, yeah, homework though. You can't have both, right? See, what is important? Why do we need to give homework? Let's understand that. The homework was there, or any kind of student-led initiative in classroom was there to develop thinking skills in students. When you do homework or when you work independently, then you're working with your own mindset and not guided mindset. That is what homework was, right? So we have to again change. If you're doing the same question answers, book ke piche wala answers, and do that, or do 50 sums of mathematics or practice and come back. I don't know how much of it is beneficial, whether it is valid in today's world also or not. For example, writing is a skill set. Writing is a skill set. Is it valid? We have to start thinking. For example, cursive writing went away. When we were growing up, cursive writing was huge. Cursive writing is completely erased. We don't have cursive writing anymore. And there's a very, very solid scientific reason for it, right? Similarly, we will also have to change the way. Now, coming to the question that you were asking, is it deteriorating cognitive thinking? You know what? As of today, if you ask me, yes, the children are thinking less. They are thinking less because they're thinking about a lot of other things. We are not using associative methods. We are not using, we are not asking them, we are asking them to replicate what is there in the book. And that's how ChatGPT works. If you put your book up or if you take a PDF of your book, put it up and you ask them 50 questions, it gives you an answer. You just have to write without thinking twice. Instead of that, if we change how we are asking questions, I'll give you a small example. A typical thing like the tortoise and the rabbit story. Very common. We use it all the time. We use it as analogy all the time. I would ask students that I want 50 questions based on this one story, right? And that's when the child starts thinking. And then the AI also keeps asking you questions. Those are the kind of skill set we need to develop in the teachers. But like I said earlier, the gap is still there and the gap is huge. Right now, we are not using it the way it is supposed to be used. And that is a very scary prospect. Yes, the cognitive development is diminishing because of excessive use of AI, especially by students, because we don't have enough guides. As teachers or as educators, we don't have enough guidelines. How do we use it better? That's what the issue is.
So, what I hear you say is that it is imperative for us to sort of change the way we teach our kids and the curriculum itself. The curriculum needs a overhaul to keep up with the times. There needs to be more practical education on how to embrace AI rather than trying to discourage use of it, because it can be a very powerful tool when used appropriately and can enhance the critical thinkings rather than what it is doing now.
So basically, the most Herculean task that we need to address, and we need to address the elephant in the room on an immediate basis, is how do you use AI better? Not about usage. Usage is there. We all know how it is used, right? When you can create images and you can create everything in minutes, and the children, the way they are using it, it's brilliant. And why should we discourage it? Why should it is like saying when a car was invented, we stopped using cycles or we stopped walking. It did not happen, right? Similarly, with it's a tool. It is a tool that we have to use. That is exactly what we need to do with AI. Instead of using it as a deterrent, let's use it as something which will aid in education at some level. And I think it has a lot of potential. Lot of potential, how I look at it.
So another follow-on question then is that, the way we test the students with the board exams and the long answers that they have to write. AI is good to give you that information and, help you learn and evolve and understand concepts.
Yeah.
And there needs to be a change of way we test the critical skills of the students.
Sure. And I think it is happening slowly, steadily. We give too much of emphasis on exams. Firstly, again, very unpopular opinion, but as far as I'm concerned, there should be no exams. I'm not saying not to test them. Test has to be there. We need to assess students. We need to assess everyone at any stage. Even when we are working, every year when appraisal happen, at the end of the day, we are being assessed. What are we assessing? Are we assessing what we do not know? Because the way question papers are framed, it is always framed to test you what you cannot do. It is never framed to test what you can do. So that it's a very interesting thing, but it is. That's how question papers are framed. So we need to change how we are assessing students. Have to start, for example, going back to the same tortoise and hare story. Why are we asking what is the moral of the story? Nobody is interested in the moral of the story. For example, based on that, can you describe the topography of the area? Can you think about which part of what kind of jungle were they living in? Can you talk about can you talk about different animal set? Of course, it's metaphorical, but to think about it, what are the kind of animals that stay together? What are predators? What are domestic animals? When we're talking about it, why can't we use a story like that to use? So that is how we need to evolve how we are thinking. And that is exactly how things would change with AI. We will have more competitive exam kind of system. That will happen eventually because at whatever said and done, board exams, what validity do board exams have in today's date? Your 10th exam results are valid only till you get admission in your grade 11th. Most of us, I don't even have my mark sheet. Does it matter? No, it doesn't. I have the passing out certificate and that's about it, right? Then grade 12th with CUET coming in and the competitive exams coming in, it has no validity at all. Now, what do we do with these exams? Why do we still have, why is that wow board exam still there? Like earlier when we were talking about how that the divide between rigidity and adaptability is there, that is what has brought this. Because the parent today, even today, and I'm talking about the most woke and the evolved parents, are not ready to take away the exams. They want exams to happen. They want that pressure. I don't think we like our children too much. We want those exams. We want them to suffer exactly how we suffered. But I think assessments have to change. We have to completely relook on how assessments are done. We have to talk about more continuous assessments. We have to start talking about how critical thinking skills are developed in students, how problem solving skills are developed. For example, going back to the hare and tortoise story, what do you think the rabbit could have done to stay in the game? Now, that's a question you need to ask. How would have you done it differently if you were in place of rabbit? So, asking, and these are all mundane stories that we read. If your purpose of assessment is to know what is written in the book, like this is something that my son had said along. I always quote him, and it's a very silly thing that he said at that point, and I scolded him. But now when I think of it, it was so true. He said, "Why do I need to go to school? They teach me what I already know," and it's actually true. that they teach you what you already know. Now, we need to look at the unknown. So I think that is where the schooling system will change eventually. Yes, we are still looking at 15 years. We're not looking at today's. It's not like it'll happen in next 2 or 3 or 5 years. This change will take a lot of time. The change may happen with IB, Cambridge schools coming in. It may happen in bigger cities sooner than it would happen in smaller sectors. But tier 2, tier 3 cities, we're still far away, at least 10 to 15 years away from where what we're talking about right now.
So, with AI, do you think this change we'll have to move faster compared to, let's say, if there was no AI?
Maybe. We don't know. See, for example, there was a jhatka of COVID that happened, which brought a lot of us, say, how we are connected right now. Maybe there will be a moment like that. I don't know. I'm just talking about the scenario as I see it today, working with these schools, working with the kind of parents that we are working in. Whatever we see or do is limited to the perceptions that we have. What you cannot perceive, you cannot dream. There are people who have not seen. For them, education is this. For them, education is chalk and board. For them, education is question answers in the copy. For them, education still remains that year-end pe exam honge, uska result aega. You know, like for example, HPC has been introduced. Now, HPC is Holistic Progress Card, which CBSE has introduced in all classes from foundational to senior grade. In foundational grade, it's very easy. Not having exams till about grade 2, completely okay. Parents are okay because regular assessment. Third onwards, there's no assess. So CBSE has said you have HPC report card alongside your regular report cards. That is how the rigidity of parents is, but that's okay. I think the change has to be gradual. Let's not. So yes, with AI, it may be faster. With AI, teachers may get prepared much faster, but to change the parental mindset will still take a lot of time.
Yeah. So, I mean, on that point itself, like you mentioned that there's a gap between teachers and children. What is the gap between parents and children, and how are they dealing with all of this, right? Especially because, like you said, the future is not as certain as it used to be. So, how are they thinking about it? I'm sure a lot of them are worried, and you are a parent yourself. So, how are you thinking about it, and how are you seeing other parents kind of dealing with all of this?
So honestly, a lot of panic, a lot of uncertainty. See, this uncertainty was always there. It's not like it has happened now. Earlier, we did not have an avenue where we could express it. Earlier, we did not know what we were looking at, right? So our parents may have been a little worried. They were never anxious. Now, as a parent, for us, both as a parent and from the education point of view, if I have to put it in perspective, then very importantly, what we are looking at is a world where we are exposing our children to information which we are very scared of. And, as a parent, pornography is the last thing I'm thinking about. I'm not even worried about it, right? Again, quoting my son, he says it's just reproduction. Keep quiet, mama. Now we are looking at the information, the dark web which is available, and the kind of challenges which comes up, and the kind of influences that happen, because social media is very influential. Like you have a whole vision board made for yourself, which is absolutely unattainable, but you have thought about it for yourself. So how do you keep your child grounded? I think that is the biggest challenge as a parent. If you're not a little more hands-on with your child, I think the most important thing at this stage as a parent is to keep yourself updated with what is happening, to keep yourself attuned with when your child moves into silence. So, as parent, I think it's very important to stay vigilant. It is very important to be sure of what your child is doing, and we can only attempt to see it from their point of view. We do a lot of parenting counseling as well. Um, a simple thing like choice of career, it's still engineering and doctor for most of the people in India. Of course, law has come into picture, so it's CLAT. Unless आप किसी चीज की तैयारी कर रहे हो, unless you are preparing for something, you're not a student who's good enough. So to get out of that mindset, to get the parents out of that mindset that it's okay if your child wants to do liberal art, it's very easy to convince a parent in Bangalore, Bombay, Delhi to let their children be in liberal art. It's very difficult to convince a parent in Bahraich or Gonda or Lakhimpur to let their child get into liberal arts and do something which is, in their words, vague, where it's not directed. So,
Yeah.
yes, but yeah, as parents, I think that gap is scarier than we think.
So, Tulika, how do you see AI evolving? And if you had the freedom to change the course of education, how will you really use AI in making the students learn much better and the learning outcomes be much better?
So honestly, if you ask me, I'm very radical on this. So I work with a very traditional system. However, I think AI is hugely constructive. I am extremely, extremely hopeful of AI helping us change the landscape of education. That's what I'm hopeful for. Let's change the way we are looking at it. I'm hoping that we will have enough industry standards where we'll be able to bridge that gap, and we'll have more targeted AIs for education. We'll have more targeted intervention for schools. We will have, like, for example, curriculum. When it is made, maybe AI needs to get integrated in the curriculum itself instead of being a tool to implement the curriculum. So that is what I'm looking forward to. Something that I'm looking forward to is also infrastructure development for use of AI within the school systems. I'm talking about manpower resources as well. I hope we can have more directed, not just a certification course on Gemini 3.0. No, that's not what I'm looking at. AI application to become more user friendly, AI application which is directed and embedded in the curriculum, AI application for students, which will help them think better instead of using it as a passive tool. That's what I'm looking forward to. And I'm hoping in next couple of years we'll get there. Let's just use it better. If there's somebody else who can use Excel without me putting in effort, I would love it. And why waste my time beautifying my PPT when somebody else can do it? Let me not waste time on all that. I would rather put my thought into how do I make my content better in that PPT. So yeah, let's just use it better.
Yeah. One question that we'd like to cover is the equity. There's a lot of hope that AI will be the great equalizer, that a student in a village gets the same quality of help as a student in a top city school. But you work with many different types of schools. Do you see this gap closing, or do you think it's still a pipeline dream?
Right now, we are far away from equity, very far removed from equity as of today. We do have access to internet. Is a report. There's a agency called Pratham which takes out ASA report, which is the only population survey report that we have for education. Now, as per that, the usage of internet is huge, even in the rural level. Whether it is used for education is a different thing. So, accessibility to internet is there, right? It's not increasing the divide. Firstly, that I think internet is bringing the world closer, even in smaller cities. Even when you look at a student in Pratapgarh participating in a quiz competition which is held in Bombay, then you know that the gap is being bridged. Yes, whether it is accessible to all or not, because I'm again talking about very elite schools. I'm talking about schools which have infrastructure, and I'm not talking about government schools. I'm not talking about schools which do not have these. So the gap is still there. We're still far away from it.
One follow up here. So, are there any like personalized apps that are becoming popular that somebody like a student in a village, if they have access to internet, they can just use that and learn?
Plenty, plenty. They are available.
Right.
YouTube
Yeah.
is one of the most popular ones because you type and you get a video. So there are lots of video based learning which is there. So a lot of them have now graduated from being kinesthetic learner or audio learners to becoming visual learners. It is so everything from physics walas to Byju's to Khan Uncle and all that. For example, as our group, we use an app called Tundemi, right? Tundemi is again a personalized app where every child has their own account and all the homework for foundational grade goes on Tundemi. So there are plenty of apps. Every second day, there's a new app which comes out. Every second day, there's some sort of a new application, some web-based learning mode which comes out. A lot of graded news question papers are available. A lot of assessment is available online. So yeah, it is.
And you see them actually being used in villages more.
I don't know about villages, honestly. I don't know. I'm purely talking about from point of view of K-12 mid-range schools in smaller cities. There, it is being used there, yes. However, when you see reels on Insta being made by village people, you know they have the accessibility. It is just a matter of time how they will turn it around. Learning development has moved hugely on AI. Things are changing, but we're still very nascent.
Yeah. Thank you, Tulika. I think it was a fascinating discussion on a very important topic. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. It was great talking to both of you.
That was indeed a very interesting conversation and honestly a reality check. Students have the tools and are already using them with or without guidance. But our curriculum and exam system is still stuck in the past.
And it's not the students, but the teachers that need to embrace the change and be trained to use AI to make most of this technology. Now, to think about and explore, we don't have all the answers yet, but we will keep asking the questions. Let's try to uncover some more of these questions in the next episode when we talk to another guest from the education sector. Until then, keep prompting. Thank you for tuning into Prompt India.
We will be back soon with another episode. Until then, take care.